I'm from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, if you look at the body of the motion, you will see that it is a liturgy of planned failure. It is organized to fail because the institutions and the structures that government has put in place to ensure that transactions of this nature are successful are completely absent. When you look at the procedure, the body of the motion says that BPE, ICRC were excluded from making input. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the transaction, the consultants that have been chosen for this purpose, one is PricewaterhouseCoopers, a company that has been discredited worldwide, and as our last count, it's been discredited in South Africa. And if you look at Greenwich, the company that has been authorized to be the transaction advisors, apart from the fact that the motion says that the legal instrument, that company is owned by the political mentor of the Honorable Minister, Honorable Kayode Fayemi. More than that, Mr. Speaker, as at 2011, Mr. Speaker, when the present Minister of Solid Minerals Steel Development was governor, Greenwich was given instructions and led the issuance of a bond in Ekiti State. And it says, Ekiti State Government of Nigeria, offer of subscription 20 billion, 14.5% fixed rate bond due 2018. Lead issuing house, Greenwich Trust Limited. Mr. Speaker, this is not just ordinary coincidence. How can you exclude structures of government, institutions, BPE, SRC, and go and engage a company that had well-alleged political mentorship, patronage, and now you go and get them because you have been using them? Nigeria is not meant to create job for the boys. We are run by rules of law and not rule of men. You don't do this and get away with it. Mr. Speaker, this is more than a coincidence. But more than that, Mr. Speaker, Ajokuta reminds me of the myth of Sisyphus. The myth of Sisyphus goes this way. Sisyphus was a Greek god and was condemned to perpetual perdition by Greek gods that he had offended. And his punishment is that each time Sisyphus rolls a stone to the mountaintop, in order to roll it down the other side of the mountain, the punishment will expire. But each time he gets to the mountaintop, the stone rolls back. And that is the story of Ajokuta. Each time we think we want to overcome this perdition, somebody gets up and sets us back. And in this instance, the Honorable Minister that is
Order,
by
please.
our laws and by his position supposed to superintend over this. We have had 2 concessions, and somebody is on a dead run to make sure we do another one. And they just plan to fail. Mr. Speaker, this is 3 years of discussion by this government, by this minister on Ajokuta Steel. Not even a quotable quote with regard to the way forward. We can't say that this is what we are holding. And what we are just busy, people going to radio stations, to television, pontificating. Nigeria has gone past that stage. When Binako, a man from a place, had 3 children, and he asked, how many times, he asked the first time, how many times will something happen to you? And you will learn. He said, 3 times. The second one said, if something happens to me once, I will learn. And now, the last one said, I will use what happened to another person to learn. Is it that the minister has no capacity to understand that this structure, Ajokuta Steel, cannot be superintended and could not be put to function this way? He ought to know better. Mr. Speaker, the history of privatization and concession in this country has shown me that nobody, no legal person, including companies, has the capacity to raise the kind of fund that is required to make sure that that enterprise functions. If you look at Discos, you look at the other enterprises, what do you see? You see a situation where you concession a company, the next minute is that they run to the bank. They don't even have any capital to invest. The next minute is that they use that as collateral to raise loans. That has been our history. And we cannot continue this way. If in 3 years you can't even come to a conclusion on a transaction, Mr. Speaker, something is wrong with it. Honorable colleagues, I think we have to go beyond this nepotism. This government came to power with regard to economy, security, and to fight corruption. Inherent in all the things that has happened in Ajokuta, the economy is on its knees with regard to Ajokuta. It's not being revamped. Corruption is standing on its head in Ajokuta. Nepotism in all its ramifications. If you even talk about security, Kogi State that is housing Ajokuta Steel is riddled. They are importing arms. You go to any part of the state, people are complaining. A labor leader was heard the other day. So this should be of concern to Mr. President because this is his 3 cardinal agenda. He should be concerned and questions should be asked. So I believe strongly, Mr. Speaker, my heart tells me that Ajokuta has to work. But my head is telling me that the minister is not getting it right. My head is telling me that there is nothing right about what is happening. And that is why I completely, whole and entire, support this motion. Mr. Speaker, there has to be, if it is an amendment, fine. But there is nothing wrong to create a special purpose vehicle like AMCON to make sure that we have a bill that is properly funded, that will properly fund Ajokuta to its completion. It can have an expiry period. It lasts for 10 years, complete it and make it a going concern. And we have a Marshall Plan with regard to the way it should be funded. I've said it the last time, and I'm saying it again. If we have 46 billion in foreign reserve, Mr. Speaker, nothing is wrong with taking 500 million or 1 billion out of that money to make sure that the backbone of our economy starts going. I so contribute. Thank you very much.